I use my diabetes as a disability to get what I want out of life. And if you want to learn how to do that yourself, you should stay tuned, because this is an interesting lesson that I've got for you today. Some hacks in life to get more from the world using our diabetes to get what we want. Now, I can promise you this is not what you think it is. In fact, if you came here to learn how to go on disability, you're not going to like this episode. Guarantee that. Now, a client of mine, actually, we had a chat recently about people who use diabetes as an excuse, as a disability to lean into the weakness, and how we are, well, I won't ruin the surprise for you. It's an interesting lesson today, and I think that you'll find some value in it, because I will share some life hacks that diabetes actually gives us an advantage for, which is really interesting. But I think it's also critical for us to step up to the plate, challenges that life has offered us. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Matt Van de Vecht. I live with type 1 diabetes, and I'm also a certified master fitness trainer and nutritionist. And today I want to share bits and pieces of that conversation with my client about using diabetes as a disability, the pros and cons, the ins and outs, and the mindset shifts that might go along with that. So I hope you find some value in this. We'll get into our theme song and then hop into today's story. So, do I use diabetes as a disability? Yes and no, right? I mean, it was kind of clickbaity for me to start the episode like that. I get it. But there are ways to use your diabetes to get fun stuff out of life. But the reality is that it's not getting fun stuff. It's just stuff that we need as diabetics, right? So, prime example of this, if you don't know already, when you travel going on an airplane, you can priority board because you have medical needs technically. What they are, I don't know, but I've used that to make sure I get carry-on space, because you also get a medical bag, which means if you have a carry-on piece of luggage that is purely medical supplies, and be ethical with that, of course, but you get that as a medical bag, and they cannot separate you from that. Obviously, because we have insulin, CGM supplies, insulin pump supplies, low snacks, all this kind of stuff, keto sticks, right? And I actually have been separated from my luggage in the past, didn't stand up for myself, didn't advocate for myself, and my insulin got checked and then got lost. And I landed in Paris, France with no insulin. Terrifying. Happened to me again on a different trip going to Africa. Landed, insulin was gone. With my bag. My bag was gone. They lost my luggage. And so this one makes sense why you might use this to quote unquote get what you want, because we actually need to hold on to our insulin. So a medical bag, that's one thing to be aware of. Now, another one on a similar note is that when I go to places, like I live in San Diego, California, so we go to SeaWorld with my toddler, we go to the zoo, my wife and I go to baseball games, that sort of stuff. When you go to an event or a theme park, usually there's a very strict no outside food policy, unless you have type 1 diabetes, because for us, food can be considered medicine. Now, there's two reasons I do this. One, because I can save like $100 because I eat like a monster. I eat a lot of food. I'm training for an Ironman right now, and I consume thousands of calories every day. So with that, the amount of food I would have to purchase in a theme park would put the budget over. But secondary, or I guess actually primary, is that I have an actual carb count for the food that I'm consuming, so I know how much insulin to take, and that food, of course, is readily available. So getting food and water into places, theme parks, this also works for airplanes. Whenever I travel, I pack my first meal. Usually it's a PB&J sandwich, maybe some veggies, some fruits, just something that's easy for me to count, and it's healthy. I know I'm going to feel good, and of course I know it's going to cooperate with blood sugars. You can do that, and I highly encourage it. Now, this third hack it's a hack, right? And technically you're getting on the edge of leaning on the disability portion of diabetes. But if you don't know this yet, you can register as disabled to get a free access pass to the national parks. And I actually have one of those, and I'm going to show you right here. This is an access pass. As you can tell, there is a handicap sign on the card, and I was very hesitant to get this. It took me a year to be like, okay, I'll sign up for it. But you get, let's see, the National Parks and Federal Recreation Lands Pass. And I'll read this to you. Lifetime pass for U.S. citizen or permanent resident medically determined to have a permanent disability that severely limits one or major life activities. So for whatever reason, type 1 diabetics are included on this. You can get your car into a national park, and everybody in your car, you get free parking. There are some limitations to it, but I've used it to get into national parks in California. And to me, I don't know why we get that, really, but I took advantage of it because I love national parks. So there is that. And like I said, it's kind of bordering on leaning into the disability side of diabetes, which I am against, and you'll hear about that in just a second. Got a little bit of a rant for you, but pretty cool. You can get an access pass for national parks if you're an outdoorsy person like me. Pretty big benefit there. Now, the last hack or tip before I get into my rant and this discussion I had with my client is that food, more particularly sugar, glucose, candy, is medicine for us, right? And funny story, when I was first diagnosed, I was a collegiate athlete. I was a rower on the SDSU rowing team. And one of the other rowers, and they call it crew, if you're unfamiliar with this, so crew team. One of the other rowers, I was going to say his name. I'll keep his name separate, but he was a type 1 diabetic since like age 4 or something. And so when I got diagnosed as a collegiate athlete, because I was diagnosed in college, I was 19 when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, he was like, oh, come on under my wing. I'll teach you what you need to know. And there were a number of times where I had urgent lows while we're out on the water in the boat, and the team had to row us back in, and I'd crawl to shore so I could get sugar. And he'd be like, all right, go get your juice box or whatever. And I'm like, what juice box? And he's like, you didn't bring sugar? He's showing me the ropes, and he's like, you need to bring sugar with you everywhere. Like, you need this stuff. And so he'd give me his low snacks. And that happened twice, actually. One time where he gave me a juice box in the boat because we were too far from shore. I would have passed out in the water. It's a very dangerous spot to be in. And then 2, back at the boathouse, different day at practice, I ended up having to eat his low snacks because, again, I went low. We didn't have CGMs back then, so I didn't know, just relying on glucometers. But all that to say, sugar, candy, food, it's medicine for us. We can use that to our advantage, of course, too, but it's also kind of a running joke, right? That candy and dessert is considered medicine if you're having a low blood sugar. So that's more of just kind of a fun one for you. But no, today's topic, I also want to discuss those who view diabetes as a disability, both from the outside in, other people see us as disabled, and from the inside in, those who view themselves as disabled. I've got a few key phrases for you, a few key lessons that I want to share, but I will start by saying I am against people living with type 1 diabetes or any diabetes who use diabetes specifically as their disability, as their excuse. To me, that's taking something that could make us weaker, like diabetes, and leaning into the weakness to play the victim and say, oh, woe is me, diabetes is so hard. And to anybody who says diabetes is hard and that's why it's a disability, I agree with you. Diabetes is hard. That doesn't mean it's a disability. That does not mean it's an excuse to give up on challenges that life presents us. And I was talking with my client who does agree with me, thankfully. We were talking about the DAS pass, DAS, something about disabilities with Disneyland, because we're going to be taking my toddler there while she's still free for her first experience with Disney, because she loves princesses, right? And we were discussing how a lot of people have abused these disability cards, right? And talk about people who have like support animals and their animals aren't actually trained to be a support animal. They just wanted their dog to come on the flight with them, right? So a lot of people do abuse this, and it's really sad because there are people who are truly disabled and who truly need these gimmies, right? Things that allow them to navigate life as somebody without the disability might. Prime example might be a handicap ramp, right? Somebody in a wheelchair can't get upstairs. Great, they need a ramp. There is no getting around that. And so there is certainly reason for some people to go on disability or to be considered disabled and to get what they need. But diabetes by itself is not one of those reasons. And this is my opinion. Of course, you're free to drop comments and let me know how much you hate me for saying that. But I I very specifically lay out that I do not agree with people who lean on diabetes as an excuse, as a weakness, because diabetes is very much treatable. It's an effort that must be put in, and those who do not put the effort in will not see controlled blood sugar. So therefore, if your diabetes is not controlled, this is going to sting some people, it's because either you have not put the effort into your diabetes, or you have not put the effort into finding someone to help you with your diabetes. Good news is if you're watching this and you're like, but I don't know who could help me. That's literally all I do. I make hundreds of videos and episodes. I've put so much content on the internet that you can go help yourself with the content that I've created. So there's no excuse anymore. We also have coaching, obviously, for people who want more of a hand-holding experience. But if you do not take care of your blood sugars, and you are not actively seeking help from somebody else who can help you take care of your blood sugars, then you are the problem. It's not a disability, right? It's very much treatable. If I can train for an Ironman, you can keep a job. Now, this is a very touchy subject, obviously, and there are a lot of gray areas with this. I recognize there are reasons that people might need to sign up for disability and to have moments in life or temporary disability, right? There are some people who, because blood sugars are so wacky, have no ability to hold down a job because they're low, they're high, they're low, they're high, and it's wacky, right? So there might be a reason to temporarily lean on the assistance of others. I support that. I think it's helpful to have a moment to take a breath of fresh air. In fact, there was a time in my life where I did quit my job so that I could focus on blood sugars. And I, thank God, had the support of my family to do so. And that led me into actually a very deep research phase where ultimately I discovered blood sugar formulas. And that helped me to get my blood sugars back on track, get them to a more controlled and predictable place. And now I coach other people on how to set up their own blood sugar formulas so that blood sugars can be predictable and enable you to have stability with life so that you don't have to go on disability in other areas of life. Because let's be real, if blood sugars aren't controlled, they really do impact everything else in life, right? Our relationships, our mood, our motivation, our health, all of the organs. Like your blood sugars really are tied to a lot of things, which is why I think it's critical that you prioritize your blood sugar control. If you can keep your blood sugars in check, everything else benefits as a result. So for me, I think it's important for people, whether they have the support of others or not, to prioritize their blood glucose control. So when we think about people who might need that temporary lift, temporary assistance, yes, there's a gray area where I would accept that, right? And you also don't need my acceptance. But I'm just saying, from my perspective, there might be a reason to lean on others for help, and others can be the government or your family or whoever. There's programs for that, right? But you need to ask yourself an important question. Am I showing up as my best self, or am I actively looking for excuses and justification to lean into the weakness? See, type 1 diabetes is very much a weakness in life. It's a disability. Yes, it's a disease. It's a chronic illness. But we have the choice in how we interpret that and how we move forward in life. Can't change the fact that I have type 1 diabetes, right? That's here. That's staying. It's with me forever. But I can decide if I want to lean into the weakness and play the victim and allow type 1 diabetes to actively make me a weaker human being and miss out on life as a result. Or I can choose to see type 1 diabetes as a challenge to grow in, to make myself stronger, to become more resilient as an outcome. Because when we do hard things, not only do we show ourselves mentally that we can handle hard things and we level up harder, we're able to accomplish these amazing things, but it also allows us to take more control over our health. See, if you go on disability and ask for assistance, you're not fixing your blood sugars, right? You're finding excuses. You're justifying it mentally, which means you're not going to take control, and your diabetes may never get fixed. It may never get to a place where you are truly healthy. But in accepting it as a challenge, it gives us something to pursue. It gives us purpose with our lives. And with purpose, you can achieve greatness. So I personally have had to make this shift because there was a time where I did view my diabetes as a weakness. I played the role of the victim. I never went on disability, but I used diabetes as an excuse in my social life, for my career path, for athletics. Oh, I'm just not as good as everybody else because I have diabetes, right? And that was my excuse that I did use, and I'm embarrassed by that. But for a number of years, I used diabetes as a scapegoat, right? Where I was like, oh, I didn't win the race. It's because I have diabetes. Like they don't have diabetes. But here's the thing. Here's the secret to life. Everyone has crap they have to deal with. Our crap is type 1 diabetes. We got to deal with it. All right. Well, I'm going to accept that and move on, right? But everyone has stuff going on, whether it's below the surface or above, whether you can see it or not. We have an invisible illness that people can't really see what's going on with their blood sugar levels, right? Sometimes they can see symptoms like lows and highs and whatnot, but for the most part, invisible illness. There's a lot of other invisible things going on in people's lives that are hard to deal with for them too, right? And I know a lot of people are like, oh, but Matt, your diabetes isn't as hard as mine. I got diagnosed with brittle diabetes. If you've ever heard about that, that means it's harder than the other type or than everybody else, right? Brittle means there's more volatile fluctuations in your blood sugar numbers, making them more unpredictable. So the fact that I've discovered and created a blood sugar formula to make them predictable shows, as you can tell, the shift that I made for my own life, which was from victim to victor. Right? I chose to see diabetes as something to be overcome, something to be controlled, as a challenge to pursue. It gave me purpose, gave me reason to continue on. Play the victim, and you will always be the victim. That phrase has stood out to me for a number of years because I used to play the victim in many areas of life. Type 1 diabetes, definitely one of those. But back in, high school, junior high, elementary school, for a long time, I was bullied as well. And for a long time, I played the victim, and for some reason, it never clicked. But the more you let bullies bully you, the more bullies bully. It just kind of continues, right? It snowballs. And the bullies figure out, oh, that kid, we can pick on him because he won't fight back. And sure enough, over time, I played the victim, and I continued to be the victim. If you play the victim with your diabetes, you will continue to be the victim. Diabetes will rule your life. It will wreck your health, and it destroys your peace of mind, your quality of life, and every aspect of everything it touches. The only way to turn this around is to take responsibility for it yourself and to actively pursue progress. And progress doesn't have to look beautiful, doesn't have to be linear, but the goal is to be 1% better every day. Not literally, like time and range speaking, but to take one step forward as best you can. Baby steps, right? Just make small amounts of progress. But the first step in that process is to take responsibility for this disease that we did not ask for. It's not our fault, right? It's an autoimmune disease. We did nothing to ask for this or to deserve this. But since we can't change it, what are you going to do about it? What can you do about it? And actually this story, this wasn't part of the episode, but we're going to share it. Yesterday, I had an Ironman training that really sucked. It was really freaking hard. Massive pain to the point where I could not walk towards the end of my workout, and I seriously considered going home before the workout was done, which is against my values, right? My values are I will finish the mission. That's the goal. And I was having some of the worst cramps of my entire life in my quadriceps, the front of my legs. We did a 35-mile bike ride and then a 6-mile run. During the bike ride, my legs were on fire, but they were still usable. During the run, they gave out. Like I actually had to sit down. Cramps were bringing me close to tears. It was incredibly painful. And my running buddy who was there with me saw me just limping towards the car. And he goes, "Hey man, I thought they called you a warrior." I was like, oh man, I have to finish. And he got me with that. I was so grateful for him. Another runner that passed by said, "Did he just give you crap for that?" And I said, "I think he did." But he reminded me that we have a choice to make. right? In everything. Will I play the victim or the victor? Will I push through when things get hard? And he said something else that also stuck with me. He said, if it was easy, everybody would do it. I said, you're absolutely right. 'Cause he's also doing the Ironman with me. And we're both just like, holy cow, this is hard. But something that really continues to resurface in many areas of my life is that challenges aren't a bad thing. Challenges are actually good. They allow us to grow. They give us purpose. They allow us to level up. And without challenges in life, like type 1 diabetes, honestly, and this is going to sound backwards, but without challenges, life would be boring. If every day was just continually winning and easy and nothing ever changed, there were no hard decisions to make, no hard discussions, we didn't have to encounter spontaneous or erratic blood sugar changes, life would be kind of boring because it would be too consistent, too predictable. There's no excitement. There's no feeling of progression. There is no sense of overcoming difficulty. So it turns out that doing hard things, encountering challenges, and overcoming them, at least for me, is what helps to give my life more purpose, more enjoyment, and more meaning. Now, there's more to life than just overcoming challenges, obviously. Relationships come to mind as one of the keys there. But to see type 1 diabetes as a weakness, I believe, is missing the entire point. Everyone's got their crap to deal with. This is our crap. But if you are able to shift your perspective, to view type 1 diabetes as something to be overcome, something to give us this superpower of resilience, I mean, it's kind of a blessing, right? And I can tell you with absolute certainty that type 1 diabetes, while I'm going to say it, I hate it. It sucks. It is hard. It's still hard for me. There's still days where I have lows and highs, and I'm mad about it, right? But type 1 diabetes has absolutely made me a better person, a stronger person, a more informed person, a more compassionate person, a better dad, a better athlete. I studied nutrition and fitness because I wanted to understand how blood sugars worked, not because I cared about nutrition or fitness. I did not. When I was first diagnosed, I was still eating California burritos at 1 o'clock in the morning, right? I had no idea of what a healthy meal looked like, right? Type 1 diabetes shifted my entire life. And believe it or not, it was actually in a very good way. So what I challenge you to think about today is, instead of asking why me or how can I lean into this as a disability, how can I lean into the weakness, I want to ask myself, how can I take responsibility for this? How can I pursue greatness? How can I level up one step at a time? In fact, in our communities, we have this thing called the Warriors Tribe Plus. And these, for our paying members, they have monthly master classes, a community coaching, and really just a fantastic group of people, my Renegade Warriors, which is actually where this t-shirt came from. Renegade Warriors, we think differently, right? We have this phrase called CANI that we often reference, CANI, and it stands for constant and never-ending improvement. The goal isn't to fix everything by tomorrow. It's overwhelming, you're going to burn out, and it's not sustainable. The goal is to take one step forward each day, which is exactly why we pace them with one training per month, right? One thing to focus on, make progress here, and next month a new task. The next month a new task, right? New focus. So what I challenge you on today is to embrace challenge, embrace difficulty. This is one of the big reasons that I'm doing an Ironman, is to see how far I can push myself, to give myself something so big and so difficult to overcome that there is doubt in my head on if I can overcome it, right? And I know for a fact that when I do cross that finish line, because I will, when I do, I will be immensely stronger mentally, not physically. I mean, I will be physically fit, right? It's known as the hardest single day endurance event in the world. But outside of the physical strength that I'll gain, which will only be temporary, I will gain a permanent mental shift. And anytime you overcome something difficult, you too will add to that stockpile, knowing that you can do hard things, building you into a more resilient human being who can handle even greater things than you ever imagined. In fact, obviously I mentioned the Warriors Tribe Plus. That's closed right now. We only open it a couple times a year, but we do have a free community where thousands, I think we got like 7,000 or 8,000 type 1 diabetics in this group online. I'll put a link in the description. That way you can check it out. You can surround yourself by people who do view diabetes as something to be overcome, as a challenge that's worth fighting for, and get away from the few of those who don't deserve the title of warrior, being diabetic and seeing it as a weakness, seeing it as something that they can sign up for disability just because they have diabetes. It's not something that drags us down. If anything, it pulls us up to a higher level. And I'm honored to be surrounded by people like yourself, renegade warriors who pursue greatness, who look for ways to control blood sugars, who are here watching videos, trying to understand diabetes at a deeper level so that it does not hold them back from living their best life. I'm proud of you and all the efforts that you put in to manage your health, because diabetes is hard. It's very hard. There's a lot that goes into it, and I want to acknowledge that for you. And I'm proud of you for the efforts and the time and the dedication and commitment that you pour into yourself every single day when you choose to keep up the fight. If you're having a hard time finding the positive side to diabetes, just literally thought of this. I wanted to add this into the episode. Did you know that we actually have something that non-diabetics don't have? It's an instantaneous feedback loop for just about anything that impacts our health. Think about it. If you have different types of foods, you will see that in your blood sugar response. You see which foods are more likely to spike your blood glucose levels and which are not. If you exercise, you see that your overall average blood sugars will fall as you improve your insulin sensitivity. If you sleep poorly the night before, you will see, on average, elevated blood glucose levels throughout the entire day, which means we have a sneak peek into how our bodies are responding to independent variables throughout the day. So something that other people do not have, and they'll wear CGMs to try to get a sneak peek, get a little window into this, but they do not have the full picture because their pancreases are automatically making up for these poor choices that they make. So when they have a California burrito at 1 o'clock in the morning, when they don't sleep and they pull an all-nighter to study for an exam the next day, they have no idea the full impact that this has on their blood glucose levels because their pancreas is trying to make up for their mistakes. So what we see, while it is frustrating sometimes, are larger fluctuations. We can see our average glucose changes. We can see our A1C change over time with lifestyle variables. We can see our immediate CGM feedback, or if you're doing finger sticks, that works too. But the idea is that we have all this data coming in. It's our bodies responding to these variables in the absence of a working pancreas, which means we know which choices that we've made are benefiting our ultimate health. Exercise, sleep, hydration, stress levels, all of it. We get to see a direct line of that on our CGM. So there's one benefit. I hope you find that helpful. I got to jump out. I got a call with actually one of my clients, but jump into that group. Highly recommend it. We share stuff in there. Clients share stuff in there that I know you'll find helpful. And at the very least, it's nice to be surrounded by other type 1 diabetics who get it, who are on the same level as you, also pursuing constant and never-ending improvement. We'll see you in next week's episode. I'll drop that link in the description, so just tap that and go jump in. And we'll see you next time. And keep up the fight.